The Joe Budden podcast struggles without Joe Budden and makes one of the show's worst episodes. That's right, on Patreon, Joe Budden and the rest of this cast dropped the episode, but it didn't have Queen's Flip, it didn't have Joe Budden, and it featured the return of Jaywan and Immani. And they really struggled to put an episode together, and I'm going to break down how bad this episode was. So there was no Flip, there was no Joe. It seemed like Joe wanted to take a day off, and if you look at the episode that was also recorded that day, you would know that the episode was kind of short. It was 2 hours and 55 minutes long, and there was a guest on the show, Leon Thomas. So that means the show was super short. So maybe Joe wasn't feeling it, or he was upset or frustrated. I don't know what was going on, but we're going to keep an eye on it because Flip wasn't on the Patreon, so who knows, something could be up. But the episode starts off with Immani as an A-mic, and I must say he did a pretty bad job. It just felt really slow. Like the Patreon episode, it was like, man, I'm really paying for this. And in the beginning, Immani starts off by addressing Shammy's disrespectful comments towards the cast on improper improv. And I gotta say, I don't know why they mad at Shammy. He's clearly being used by Flip to illustrate controversial thoughts. It could easily stop if they wanted to. And Park says that he doesn't like when Queen's Flip and Shammy do that. I will say that now I'm starting to get a bigger picture of why improper improv might be struggling. Because if Parks is saying that he doesn't want to participate in that, isn't he holding the show back? I thought this was entertainment. Aren't you supposed to participate in that conversation and be like, nah, don't play with my people like that? Nah, and I don't know. That revealed a lot to me. And Parks, you screwed up. You're doing a terrible job. First of all, you were on the show. Don't even know what to do technically. I thought you were a super producer. The mics ain't even on. What's going on with you, buddy? Then they start talking about TV shows, more lackluster conversation. This felt completely dry, y'all. It's obvious nobody wanted to be an A-mic, and it was unclear who the A-mic was. It wasn't Ish. It wasn't Melissa Ford. Joe Budden's in the background. He doesn't want to be on the pod, but he's just screaming. It was just weird. Why not just be on the pod if you're in the studio? And I guess it was agreed Joe was supposed to leave, but he stood back anyway. And another crazy thing happens. Melissa Ford is so quiet, so much so that Parks chimes in and asks her, hey man, how you doing? This is 36 minutes into the podcast. 36 minutes, Melissa Ford has not said a single word. And I think she tries to participate after Parks kind of calls her out in a playful way. She was just dejected. She just looked out of it. And I wonder if something happened behind the scenes. I wonder if she's mad that Flip is getting time off and she doesn't get time off. She has to stay at the show. Something's up. Something was up that episode at least. Then around 38 minutes in, Jaywan tries to roast Ish. And it's something Jaywan constantly tries to do that falls flat. And Ish just be looking at him like, you stupid young man. Stop trying to talk to me. And he was just making fun of his hair. He was like, yo, you got Beijing in your hair. Yo, your sneakers you got the weird Stan Smiths. You got the official ones. These look different. And it was just like, Jaywan he don't really have the podcast abilities to roast Ish. He doesn't have like what Joe does. He doesn't have what Flip does. And he tries, but he fails miserably. And his return to the podcast kind of shows like why nobody missed him. Then Melissa Ford tries to speak. And I noticed that a lot of Melissa Ford's ideas get shut down. And Melissa Ford doesn't have the range to combat when they get shut down. I guess I understand, but that's a podcast where you have to combat when people shut you down. And you're like, oh, that's what y'all talking about. Oh, why y'all so it's a good... Like, she needs to do that. But I get the impression that Melissa Ford only wants to be there when Joe's there. Like, she doesn't care to be there when the rest of the guys are there. And it felt like she thought she was better than the rest of the cast. She was just there looking around like, why am I here? She was looking like how I think she would have looked when Buffy the Body came in to a shoot that she was doing, and she looked disgusted. She looked that disgusted. And a lot of her topics were being shut down, but that's no reason for her to go into a shell. I really think she just feels like the cast is beneath her unless Joe is there. And that's the reason I believe that she was so disengaged. Now, as to what this means for the show, it means a lot. It means that without Flip or Joe there, they really can't do anything. Because all previous iterations of the show usually had Flip or Joe there, the anchor. There's no other A mic on the show, and you would presume that Ish or Melissa Ford would step up, but they did not. Instead, they let Immani step up. He's not ready. He's not ready for the big leagues. He's a C, D, maybe B mic, and these people aren't taking the show serious. They should have came in with topics. They should have been able to have more substantive conversations. Jaywan was bad for missing a period of time. I don't even know why he was gone that long, but I was just thankful he was gone that long because to me, he's probably the worst podcaster that's ever been on the show. And I say that without trying to shoot at him, but if you look at Marissa's better than him. If you look at Rory and Mal, they're obviously better than him. Immani, Ish, Ice, even Ice is better than Jaywan. It's just tough. Joe secretly regrets signing this guy. Now, Joe has been talking about changes on the spaces and what he's trying to do for 2025.
No, all I got is major changes for 2025. It's kind of all I can say.
Is that
And that
January
won't be last of
2025
it.
or is that during the year of 2020?
All 2025.
Come on, man.
All
Give us
So
something,
soon
man.
as the
major
ball drop.
changes.
Come on, man. We don't come with the fluff, man. Give us something. Something concrete, man.
No, sorry, buddy.
Same old Joe.
Yeah, that's it. Trust the
I don't
process.
know.
And I must say, I think one of the changes starts with today. He was trying to see if members of the show could carry the show without him, and they all failed miserably. Literally, no one has a good podcast. But what could the changes be? He was on Spaces talking about how, he's got things coming in 2025. There's a couple theories about what he might be doing. There's the idea of him maybe having a live audience, I guess, to maybe to keep the energy up or to charge people while he podcasts. Also, there's the idea of him recording behind the scenes stuff. There's apparently some type of reality show that Joe's working on, and that may be the next move. Then there's the idea of him not being there and allowing other members of the show to develop their own show with him not there. This is something he tried to tease with Rory and Mal back in the day. Remember when he told Rory and Mal, the ultimate iteration of this is that you guys do your own pod on the network and then I do my pod solo. So maybe Joe could be thinking about a solo pod, but we all know on Spaces, Joe just be throwing stuff out there to see what sticks. I used to do a lot of Spaces with, not that I used to do a lot of Spaces. I used to go on the Spaces a lot with Joe, but eventually I realized that it's just a manipulation festival. He's manipulating his fans. The fans are manipulating each other to try to get close to Joe. And then Joe's really not saying much. It's a bunch of empty gobbledygook. He's said it before that he really don't say anything on the Spaces. I feel like Joe on the Spaces, not worth much. He's really not going to give it up. And if he does give it up, it's going to be about some nonsense. He likes to have glorified dating shows like See For the Love of Joe.
You want to come?
Hell yeah.
I'm gonna have Nay and Nick Nack there, so I'm protected.
Oh, for sure. Joe Vendor to the death of
Yo,
me.
listen, y'all don't get mad because Joe Nay don't have that relationship equity with Immani anymore.
Share with the class.
Oh my God.
what?
Yo, why you love Carlos Tarnia me?
I ain't gonna lie. If I was trying to change my life, it is one or two of you
That'll get popped to oblivion.
Oh, for God's sake.
one or two.
Ooh. Put a name on it.
A lot of women in the stage or a lot of women in the space trying to get Joe's attention. I just felt back. I was like, this is nasty, ugly, and I am not that pressed to be talking to Joe. I'll just, do my own Spaces. And overall, Spaces can be a bit distracting. So it's hard to take what Joe says on Spaces to any level of seriousness. But we will see if he actually ever realizes some of the changes that he wants to do. Because I noticed a trend of Joe saying he's going to change something and then it never happens. For example, years ago, I'm talking about like 4 or 5 years ago, he was talking about, I'm going to move everything to Patreon. That never happened. So I think Joe just sees the success of what's going on and probably sees how the rest of the field isn't really catching up to him and just defaults to whatever he has done. But let me know what you think in the comments. Did you enjoy this episode of the Patreon? I thought it might have been one of the worst episodes I've ever heard made by the Joe Budden podcast. The episode is called Forcing the Fun, and it felt like they were forcing a pod. They should have just kept this. Don't even drop Monday. Maybe they should have dropped some other pod. And it was a struggle fest. It was a real big snooze fest. Everybody looked like they were disengaged. They didn't have topics. But if you liked it, let me know. I know this is all opinion based. If you paid the 25, 15, 10 bucks to watch this and you thought it was dope, by all means, go ahead. I know a lot of people are going to say, Danny, you're hating. This was great. It was a great podcast. I love Ice and Ish and Immani when Joe's not in the room. But I don't agree with you at all. All right, follow me on Instagram, The Stop TV. Follow me on Twitter, The Stop TV. This is Danny from The Stop. Peace.
Hey, Danny. Congratulations on launching your YouTube channel. That is a big deal, honestly. There's a lot of people who think about doing things and never actually get up off their butts to actually do it. So congratulations on that. When it comes to the haters, I mean, that's just life. I mean, I can't tell you how many haters I've had over the 2 decades I've been in this business. And it's, you know, it's not always easy dealing with them, but if you know that you're talented, if you know that what you're doing brings you a sense of joy and you have a passion for it, the haters will, honestly, they're just confused fans. They will jump on the bandwagon or they won't. At the end of the day, it all has to do with what you want to do, with how you feel about what you're doing. And if you are impassioned by what it is that you're doing, then nothing else matters and all of the BS fades away. That's basically what's happened in my life by my own experiences. So I wish you the best of luck.